We speak of tolerance and mutual respect, but we point fingers and deliver many of the same accusations that we did years, if not decades ago. Some nations who by rights should be helping to forge a path to a better future are not here. Outside these halls, interest groups of many political and ideological stripes shout against one another in acrimony. They too should be with us talking together. All of us gathered here today welcome the dawning of a new multilateralism, less confrontation and more dialogue, less ideology and more common understanding. I deeply regret that some have chosen to stand aside. I hope they will not do so for long. Like Theodore Roosevelt, among others, my allegiance and sympathies have always been with the men and women in the arena, struggling with courage and determination to win the day. It may be easier to criticize those efforts from afar, but it does not advance the universal cause.
The disruption began even before President Ahmadinejad had warmed up. Protesters who'd managed to make it into the conference hall were swiftly escorted out as he spoke. There'd been fears the Iranian leader would use this platform to air his outspoken views. No surprise then when he did. He accused Israel of being a cruel, repressive and racist regime which had used the Holocaust and persecution of Jews to occupy a country. The walkout was immediate. Already 9 countries were boycotting this gathering, including the US, Germany, Italy and Canada. Delegates from several more, among them Britain and France, then left the room. But notice the clapping. The Europeans may have gone, but President Ahmadinejad does have allies in this room. The UN had wanted it to be a show of international unity against racist discrimination wherever it is. Instead, it was a day of division. Outside, there had been demonstrations against President Ahmadinejad's mere presence in Geneva, and Israel had withdrawn its ambassador to Switzerland after the Swiss president met the Iranian leader.
To have Ahmadinejad as a guest of a world conference against racism 65 years after what happened in Europe in the previous century is just another expression of a world that turned crazy.
UN officials say the final document of this conference is balanced. It contains guidelines for countries on how to combat racism. The UN Secretary-General has warned that in these times of economic recession, discrimination could lead to social unrest. But the Iranian president and what France has called his hate speech have overshadowed any fine words the delegates may have drafted.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. May He bestow upon His prophets. Praise be upon Allah, the Almighty, who is just, kind and compassionate. May He bestow upon His prophets His blessings and His grace from Adam to Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus Christ and His last prophet Muhammad. Following the World War II, they resorted to military aggressions to make an entire nation homeless under pretext of Jewish sufferings, and they sent migrants from Europe, the United States and from other parts of the world in order to establish a totally racist government in the occupied Palestine. And in fact, in compensation for the dire consequences of racism in Europe, okay, please, thank you. And in fact, in compensation for the dire consequences of racism in Europe, they helped bring to power the most cruel and repressive racist regime in Palestine.
Some countries did not participate in the meeting, or they left the meeting. I should say here, announce here loudly my regret for that. First, the main issue of the main agenda of the conference was racism. Are they supporting racism or racial discrimination? So why shouldn't they participate in a conference which is aimed at discussing and eliminating racism? And the second point is that the United Nations should be the symbol and manifestation of democracy and freedom of expressions. Everybody must enjoy the right to freely express his or her opinions. And third, we should not be intolerant of listening to the opinions of others. In my visit to New York, I was in the conference and I listened to the speeches of the President of the United States. This is based on the teachings of our culture. We should listen to all and to choose the best opinions and ideas. And those who consider themselves the harbingers and advocates of freedom of expression or freedom of information, why should they be afraid of participating in such a conference or listening to something which goes against their opinions? In our opinion, this is arrogance, selfishness, and this is the root cause of many of the problems existing in the world community.